Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, the 15th of June. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Iran has confirmed a ceasefire deal with the United States and says the Strait of Hormuz will reopen. Russia has conducted strikes that left a historic Kyiv cathedral in flames, and the UK has seized a suspected Russian Shadow Fleet tanker. So firstly, statements carried by the Iranian state media confirmed the initial deal with the United States to end the conflict. Iran's deputy foreign minister said that the agreement would end military operations in Iran and Lebanon, as well as opening the blockade and critical shipping lanes through the Straits of Hormuz. In the statement aired by Iranian state TV, he said a permanent and immediate end to the war has been declared on all fronts, including Lebanon. So what? I think this is still pretty rocky, but it's looking very positive. Things to look out for now is what Iran is going to get out of this. I think there's going to be an initial cash payment out of frozen funds and sanctions relief that would come in pretty quickly. One of the questions still remaining to be answered, though, is the nuclear question, which is allegedly why this all started, and it doesn't appear to be solved. So there's some pretty big question marks there. Also, the Lebanon front. How this is going to actually be enforced and be effective in Lebanon is another huge question mark. There's been strikes as recently as yesterday between Israel and Hezbollah, so that's still a pretty big question mark to me. And next, the grounds of historic Kyiv monastery has caught fire after Russia launched a major missile attack on several cities in Ukraine overnight, the heaviest Russian air attack on the capital in 2 weeks. Ukrainian officials said on Monday. The Ukrainian military said Russia launched 70 missiles and 611 drones on the country, citing preliminary data, and said that its air defense shot down 50 missiles and 582 drones, with at least 9 people killed in the attack. So what? As I'm sure you're aware due to being a listener of this podcast, this is not uncommon, but I think hitting a church is, such a specific monastery and such a target of historic value. Putin styles himself as a defender of orthodoxy, so conducting an attack against such a location is not something he would generally go for. I think it's unlikely that he'd be publicly criticized for the move inside Russia, but it could possibly get people talking. This is, if they ever find out, which, kind of unlikely, but Ukraine is pretty good at pushing out media through Telegram to try and inform the Russian public of what the Russian government is actually doing. Additionally, I think this is just going to, push the Ukrainian people further and further into fighting back against Russia. How much further can they really go? But, attacks like this definitely harden the resolve of the defending nation. And lastly, the UK Ministry of Defence on Sunday issued a press statement announcing that the Royal Marine Commandos had captured a sanctioned Russian tanker in the Channel in what they called the latest blow to Russia's wartime economy. The vessel, named Simritos, wow, that's tough to pronounce, flying under the Cameroonian flag, is thought to be part of Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet, a network of ships that clandestinely transport sanctioned Russian fuel, delivering it to buyers without willing to flout international sanctions, all to fund Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. They also suspected it of damaging undersea cables in the Baltic Sea as part of Russia's hybrid warfare against NATO member states. So what? This seizure alone won't hurt Russia that badly, but it does change the calculation. I think it's possible that this could force Russia to try and sail around the UK in an attempt to avoid such action. I should have brought up a map here, but generally they sail in between France and the UK, which is a pretty narrow sea lane. I think at its closest point is 22 or 25 kilometers, something like that. But it's pretty close, which, allows action such as this, helo boarding the ship, to be pretty easy. They can just fly off the coast of the UK, land on the ship, seize it, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So this will possibly force Russia to try and sail around the UK in an attempt to avoid such action, and it's possible they will need to start escorting their tankers. This is something we've also seen in the Baltic Sea, where relations between Baltic countries and also Nordic nations became very tense when they started seizing Russian ships, and it led to Russia, sailing warships nearby when their tankers were passing, just to, try and ensure that nothing really happens to them. So this is something we may now see around the UK, and it could really change the calculation and make the transporting of Russian oil even more expensive for them. But anyway, that's been the Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again on Wednesday. There's going to be no podcast tomorrow as I am moving house. So yeah, see you.